Alright, so back to this. Yeah, I guess I don't really know how to start off because it's not really back to this, right? This is the first video of this I'm doing. I'll probably still end up putting this in the Pokemon Surgeons playlist. Also, if you hear any other noise, that's my laptop running, but just ignore that. I guess, yeah, this is gonna be all audio as per usual, just me talking for the whole video. But I also don't anticipate it'll take long, probably like around 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, but who knows, right? Who knows? I guess, yeah, but besides that, I guess getting right into it, first things first, I don't anticipate on recording anymore. Well, I guess really first things first. So if you haven't seen, right, in the playlist this is going in, right, I played Pokemon Surgeons. I actually played it twice. I did 2 run-throughs. One run I got to about, like, I think, like, level 60 before I couldn't play anymore because the Mac updated beyond the point that was compatible. And the second one I went all the way. That was the one that that one, and the first one was 30 parts, but the second one I did on hard mode, and then that one went all the way through the main game, all the way through the post game. And the most recent one I uploaded was during winter break, and that was part 112. So that one went to parts like 112. So yeah, right, but there's that. So I've fully fleshed out and played that game over my YouTube, right? So, but there's that. Second thing being, I don't anticipate on playing any more Pokemon fan games. Reason being that it took me. Funny enough, my first run was only about 30, maybe 40 hours long, and it took me about 2 years, I think, of like casual recording to get that far. The second run was 150, right, hours long, and that took me a full summer and a full winter of serious. And it was like an extended summer and extended winter because it was during COVID, and it took basically that full amount of time of serious playthrough, like basically every single day, in order to get that done. So I don't anticipate. Granted, again, Insurgents is one of, if not the longest Pokemon fan game out there currently that I know of. But it's something where it's like, yeah, I don't anticipate on doing any other fan game because, I just don't have the time, right? I'm not going to have this, or I don't anticipate, again, with my training, right? Or basically with what I'm going to be doing, because, again, I'm a senior in college and graduating, with what I'm going to be doing after college, again, that's incompatible with the recordings I do, so depending on when I leave to go do what I do, right? It could be, whatever time that is during the summer or whatever time, I guess, in general, right? Again, I just don't anticipate on being able to get an R fan game done before then. So I'm sticking with DLC and Civ. So there's that in terms of recordings, right? So second thing, again, not doing an R fan game. Third thing, and what this leads into, is that I've been playing Pokemon Omicron, which is the title of this video, on my own. And basically, if you don't know what it is, it's almost like a prequel to Insurgents. There are characters and references from Omicron that make it into Insurgents, just like how there's going to be Insurgents references that make it to Azurite, which is another game. I think it's still in development. Honestly, it may never even get developed, but it's still a thing, right? That's at least, being conceptualized. Honestly, I have no idea if it's going to make it into development at all. So, again, right, it may be a issue of what would you call it? Yeah, you can't even see the updates page because there's literally nothing to update. So it may be a maybe a case of scope creep. But again, right, the point being that it's the same dude who made it, the suzerain, right? Same dude who made it as Insurgents, right? Or same dude who made both of them, right? Suzerain, right? Funny enough, Omicron came obviously before, right? That's why I meant it's like a prequel to Insurgents and like kind of like a warm-up to Insurgents. And I'll talk about this later during my actual review, again, because the title of this will be a Pokemon Omicron early game review, right? So, because again, I'm not going to be recording it, but I still want to talk about it. So again, right, that's something to where it's like, and it was only after my playthrough today, because I'm only about 3.5 hours into the game, which really isn't that far. Granted, again, it's actually pretty far, like, at least compared to Insurgents, right? Because Insurgents, you know, level 50, I think, is about when you hit the third gym, right? Funny enough. I remember because that's when you have the first battle with Yern. But in this, the second gym is like level, I think, like 14, 15. So it's like, again, like just like you can't really use time as a comparison, I guess. But again, the whole point being that like I'm only 3.5 hours into this, and that's kind of what prompted me to make this video, I guess, right? Because I'll do one for the early game, do one for the mid game, and do one for the late game, and also along with 3.5 hours. Since I mentioned second gym, I beat the second gym, so obviously if you don't know the game, right, you don't know where I am. But for reference, I beat the second gym, and I made it past the 2 routes that you need to get to the third city with the Hadron Collider, or Poke-Hadron Collider, right? That's kind of just for reference point where I'm at in the game. And if you know where that is, right? And that's roughly 3.5 hours into it for me, right? So again, clearly it's a lot more fast-paced than Insurgents. Insurgents, again, right? Literally, like, you're at level 50 by the time of the third gym leader, right? So again, that's kind of when the game starts to pick up, but that just kind of puts that in comparison. And then that Yern battle, so that's something to where it's like, yeah, in this it's not really the same. It's kind of the opposite, actually. Again, you're at the second gym at, like, what, level like 14, 15, so... But again, right, so that kind of, so even though I'm saying 3.5 hours in, you know, it's not like Insurgents where 3.5 hours in, I probably wasn't even at the first town yet, or first city. But for this game, again, it's different. So time means different things. So the point being, this game's going a lot quicker, which is why I'm making this now. But besides that, right, getting into it, again, right, and I guess just talking about it, right, this again, earlier I mentioned that this game was kind of a prequel or a warm-up for Insurgents, because I believe the game was actually released like 8 years ago. It was released in like either, I mean, I guess I can just pull up the website. I actually do have the website pulled up. So, yeah, again, Pokemon Zeta Omicron. Welcome to the main website and fan game. Funny enough, they actually have a Reddit, and that's where, what would you call it? The Reddit is where you actually get the game. It's not like Insurgents where its own site's self-sufficient. It's like you need to be a part of the Reddit as well. So let's see. Home story. Do we actually have a date? I believe it's what would you call it? It was one of the oldest posts on the subreddit, and I guess public beta. Yeah, one of the oldest posts on the subreddit, I believe, was 8 years old. Or 5 years ago is where we have the current save, which is 1.5.5.2 for Zeta and Omicron. So that's where I downloaded it from. So 5 years ago. So, well, okay, the Reddit was created in February 22, 2013. So yeah, the game is actually nearing a decade old, funny enough. Why do I have Pokemon Asteroid? So the game's actually nearing a decade old. So again, right, that's something to where it's like, yeah, that's something to where it's like, what would you call it? Why am I on the fan wiki? Give me to the actual fucking website. Okay. So there's that, right? Again, so it's actually nearing a decade old. So that just kind of shows it in comparison to Insurgents, which I believe came out around I guess I can look it up, 2015, 2016. And the reason why I'm drawing this comparison, making this, wait, hold on. So, the 2014 Delibird, okay, so was it actually earlier? I actually have no idea. Discord ban appeals, I don't need to worry. Anyway, so, the point being, it was made after, right? And it's, this Suzerain, which is, again, it's the same person, right? Now he's actually the previous lead developer. It's a different person who's the actual lead developer now, so he kind of stepped down from his role. But again, the point being, it was made after, right? And the reason why I'm saying it was kind of a warm-up, or a prequel or a warm-up to Insurgents, right? And why it was made so long ago, again, right? The earliest post was 2013, right? So, early in the subreddit. So it may have even been made before then. And again, Insurgents, I think, was made around 2015, 2016. But the whole reason I'm saying this, and what I'm kind of getting to, is that the game kind of sucks. I mean, like, it took me 10 minutes to say that, but, like, I don't really know how else to put it, but the game kind of sucks. Like, I don't really know what else to say, how to put it, right? But again, right, that's why I say it's like a prequel to, or like a warm-up for Insurgents, because Insurgents, right, you know, again, even though it's the only fan game I played, right, I can tell it's one of the most, like, notable, or, like, it's, I guess, you can call it, like, the premier fan game, or one of, if not, the most notable or premier, like, fan games for Pokemon, right? So, and again, it was something that I extremely enjoyed, right? Definitely don't regret a single hour of those 150 hours put into it, right? As opposed to this Zeta and and I'm playing Omicron, by the way, but I don't think it actually makes a difference. It changes, like, it's like honestly, I don't know why they have two versions, but honestly, I don't think it makes a difference. But I am playing Omicron. But again, even just 3.5 hours in, right? Again, I kind of regret starting it. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but the game just kind of, like, I wish I could get those hours back, because the game just kind of sucks, right? I made Security Breach videos, and I don't want to draw a comparison, because I actually did enjoy some parts of Security Breach. I put, like, 17, 18 hours into the game. Granted, I haven't played a patch. I don't even know why I'm drawing this comparison. It's just because I never fucking played it, and I made so many videos on it. No ordinary person would draw that comparison. Because, again, I did enjoy parts of Security Breach. Moving on, that I shouldn't have even brought that up. But again, right, for just these 3.3, again, I kind of wish I could get them back, because, again, right, just, yeah, like, the game kind of sucks. I don't know how to put it. I guess one of the issues, and this is what prompted me to make this video, is because after you beat the second gym leader and get to that third city, you need to travel through 2 full routes of trainers in order to kind of, like, trigger the next event, which is a encounter with Team, like, Olympus. I think it's Olympus, right? Yeah, Team Olympus. Again. But you need to travel through literally, and I mean, like, I use the term literal here, literally 2 full routes of trainers. So I think it's Route 303 and 304 or something. So I probably fought at least a dozen or 2 trainers, probably closer to 2 dozen, in order to trigger that next event, which I didn't even play past, because by that point I'd spent about 1 hour of the 3.5 hours I've spent, I think, was fighting that route full of trainers. So that's kind of what prompted me to make this, is that, like, the game is just not balanced at all. Like a good comparison, right? So I fought through 2 whole routes of trainers, right? And then, but besides that, I beat the second gym leader with literally 3 moves. The second gym leader used fighting types, I believe, right? And I just beat him in 3 moves. I mean, I used, because the first gym leader used grass, so I used fighting types. The second gym leader used fighting types. But I literally beat it in 3 moves. I used 3 wing attacks from Hawlucha. That was the Pokemon I used. I used literally 3 wing attacks, beat the second gym leader in 3 moves. Like, I mean, come on, right? Just, I'm not, like, a super try-hard when it comes to this stuff. In fact, I'm not even doing it as a Nuzlocke. But, again, it's something to where it's like, it's something to where it's like, in terms of that, right, the game just isn't balanced at all, right? It's unbalanced. One moment you're being a gym leader in literally 3 moves. The second, you're fighting through 2 full routes of trainers to trigger just one event, which isn't even like a major. It's just like a random Team Olympus encounter, right? Which is the villainous team for Omicron. So, again, but the point being that, again, right, so the game's just not balanced at all. Like, but even worse, and then kind of the issue, like, I guess the bigger issue with the game is that you're not invested in it at all. Like, you're not invested in, like, the story, I'm not invested in the characters, I'm not invested in the plot, I'm not invested in the story. I don't even know what the fucking villainous team wants. Like, they have no clear goals. Your rival's a douche. I mean, because it's not even, like, fucking rival, because it's basically just a blatant ripoff. Like, they literally use the character sprite of fucking blue from, or blue-green from Fire Red Leaf Green, right? So it's literally just a blatant ripoff of that, but it's, like, not even done well. So, again, right, like, again, you're the son of the champion, which is cool, or I guess spoiler. Well, I mean, it tells you fairly early on, so it's not even like a spoiler there. I guess you're the son, daughter, whatever, of the champion, which is cool. They go to fight, the fucking villainous team, and then or at least we haven't seen them again at this point. Who knows? Again, I'm only past 2 gym leaders in this. But, again, the point being, right, that, I'm just not invested in it at all. Not invested in the story, like characters, not invested in the story, not invested in the plot, like again, not invested in the overall game. Right, that's kind of the issue. I just have no investment. And let's compare this to Insurgents. Yeah, let's compare this to Insurgents because again, right, it's kind of like a prequel, warm up, a build up for Insurgents, and that's kind of like why I'm being kind of critical here because if that's the purpose the game serves, then the game itself doesn't really matter, right? But again, the point being, like, let's compare it to Insurgents. So Insurgents, you were very invested in the characters, right? Well, I guess first off, you were invested in the story and plot, as opposed to having. Well, I guess it's kind of hard. Let me break it down to each, right? Because you know, you've got the characters, the story, the plot, and the overall game. So like for the characters, right? You're invested in the characters and Insurgents. A1 for you, you don't know who you are. Like, okay, it's kind of cool that we're the son and daughter of the champion, but like it doesn't really seem to make a difference, right? But in Insurgents, you don't know who you are, and that's a very big plot point, like in story point, like throughout the whole game, that you literally wake up on a bed, like in the Dark Ride Cult's basement, and you just don't know who you are for basically a vast majority of the mainline story game, right? Up until about like the 8th gym, I guess. Literally the 8th gym. Up until that point, you don't know who you are. And that's honestly, that in and of itself, I think that's a great idea. Because, again, it just, like, it keeps the interest up. Because it's not even, like, it's almost the opposite of, like, a normal Pokemon game where you're just, like, a kid from this, like, family, right? Because in all the normal mainline Pokemon games, you're just a kid from a family, right? So you're just literally an ordinary person. But it kind of takes that and flips it on its head to where you don't even know who you are, right? Obviously, you're someone. And again, for a majority of the game, I speculate, because people, again, like there will be instances in Insurgents where you'd go to a person's house and they'd be like, I kind of recognize you. So you're someone, you just don't know who. So it's like the exact opposite of the normal mainline games where you know who you are, you're just an ordinary person from an ordinary family. In Insurgents, you don't know who you are, but you're extraordinary, right? And you eventually find out who you are. Again, I speculated that we were the first augur. That was way off, right? Again, that's just that was it made sense, but again, it was wrong. So you're invested in yourself, right? Just who you are, because you don't know who you are, but you're extraordinary, and you're invested in learning, right? Trying to find that out. You're invested in your rivals. You actually have good rivals. You're invested in Nora from the beginning because, again, she's kind of like, I guess, what would you call it? Like, not a mentor, but again, she's kind of the one who explains everything, right? I guess, like, at the very beginning. Like, she's the one who explains your situation, right? I guess, yeah, because she's not a mentor throughout the game. In fact, for a very small period of time. But again, she's someone who's knowledgeable and understands the situation, knows your situation, and explains that to you, right? She's the one who introduces you to the concept of mystical Pokemon, which is, again, why something you don't know up until that point, and also why you're currently, why you're the way you are, not dead, I guess is a good way to put it. But beyond that, right? So you're invested in her, you're invested in Damien. From the very start is, again, it's not like he's a nobody, right? Again, he comes from what would you call it? He comes from he has step parents, right? So he is kind of I guess a nobody, but he has, again, so he's a fairly ordinary kid, right? He's a fairly ordinary kid, right? Again, just kind of someone who got screwed over. But after, I guess spoilers for Insurgents, if you haven't seen it, right? Click off now. But again, right after he ends up getting infected with the Deoxys virus, and then especially after more major spoilers, right? Especially after he kills Audrey, who also turns out to be who is revealed to be his mother, right? So since then on, you're locked in, you're invested in his character, right? And you're invested in saving him. Besides figuring out who you are, you're invested in saving him. And funny enough, that's also where you start to lose interest in Nora. But that's one of my big gripes with Insurgents. But anyway, right, that's when you're invested in ultimately saving him, right? And that's when you become invested in his character, when you realize, okay, he's extraordinary, right? And then also you're invested in the cults and the cult leaders, right? the gem leaders are all terrible people. Well, I guess you're invested in Orion, but beyond that, you're not really invested in any of the gem leaders. I mean, like, okay, Cal Reeth dies, and then Diana. I guess spoilers if shit. But yeah, Cal Reeth dies, and then like Diana has the whole thing with like Cal Reeth and her sister. But you're not really invested in the gym leaders. But the cult leaders, you are. Tane, he's kind of like Ruker and Tane. My two favorite characters, right? They're kind of just sprinkled throughout the whole game, and they act almost as better rivals than the actual rivals. But again, they each have their own motivations, and it's cool to see them work together first and then slowly kind of drift apart over time to the point where, again, they say their final goodbyes during the post game, right? And then go their own separate ways, defeating them both in the process. And then again, the other cult leaders, like Yarn, that was kind of the first major climax of the game, right? With, again, the spoiler alert, right? Revealing that him, besides being the Augur, the second Augur, that he's also the leader of the Sky Cult, right? And that he had caught Rayquaza, right? Or that he catches Rayquaza in that first battle with him. Again, that's again probably the most hype moment in the whole game. But there's that, right? So, and then from then on, you invest in him, and again, you see him kind of slowly reveal the bigger picture over time, and eventually lose everything and get outed. And then on top of that, learning that he's the reason, right? Why why the first Augur disappeared. Well, I guess you always knew that. But again, the specifics behind it. And then also realizing that you're, spoiler alert, the son, daughter of the first Augur, right? So, and then along with that second battle with him, kind of after he's lost everything, after you figured everything out, after he's figured everything out, right? But he got exposed, again, fighting him. And again, disappointed that we couldn't fight with him against Nyx. Again, that's something to where it's like, I think that's, again, but another gripe I have in Surges. With moving on, right? So you're invested in him, especially ever since that first climax. Audrey, again, you're also kind of invested with her, especially, during her, like, brief period where the Abyssal Cult was the one that was kind of focused on, right? Where they're the kind of main threat. Again, besides them actually coming very close to succeeding in their goals. Also being something to where it's like, ultimately, especially after that reveal in her death, quote unquote, because again, on more spoilers, she comes back in the post game, but especially after that, you're invested in her character post mortem, of course. But there's that, right? And then Zenith, obviously, because his cult's kind of next in line. You're invested with him, especially after you learn about his past with Persephone, right? And then ultimately that they're, like, learn more about the Infernal Cult itself, how they're the first cult, right? And how ultimately they had already acquired their legendary, right? But then also along the lines of, also first things first, figuring out that he was the librarian, right? Figuring that out. That was I remember when I saw him, right, and figured that out. It's like, you gotta be joking me. But figuring that out. And then again, also when you learn more about the Infernal Cult, they're the first cult, they already have their legendary, and about how he ends up going on to, like, mind control the region, which is insane. You get this little side plot going with that, and then the Deoxys virus. So again, right? So with that happening, and then ultimately the kind of climax where you fight him for that second time, he actually kills Cal Reeth. And then again, but he gets, you beat him, and then he gets exposed by the Oracle, which kind of reveals that he was just being used the whole time, and then Zenith ends up dying as well. So again, very much again, right, you're very invested in his character, and especially with sort of kind of how he fit into the larger overall narrative with, like, then it moves on to kind of what would you call it, then it moves on to the whole, like, Giratina cult with, like, Nyx. I'll call it that because that's basically what it is, right? Again, investing in that whole thing, and that's when you kind of learn what Yearn learned about, what was really happening, what was really going on. And ultimately that, basically leading up to that climax with her, and ultimately realizing that, this is the peak, right? The climax with Yearn was the first climax, right? But this is, like, the peak. Like, there aren't any more stakes than this. This is literally as high as it can get. And then that fight, beating her and subsequently capturing Giratina, right? And there's, again, being super invested in that. And then, again, especially with, after that, and then the Darkrai cult, right? Persephone, her being just, she was the very first cult you met, right? Or the very first cult you interacted with as soon as you woke up. And then that's something to where it's like, yeah, again, in terms of that, she's been there from the start, and then all throughout. Not like, again, Sky Cult with the very first climax with Yer and with the Crystal and Rayquaza, they had their, what would you call it? They had their, Jesus, what's the term? But again, right, they were the main threat. And then you moved on with the Abyssal Call, and they were the main threat with Kyogre. Then the Infernal Call, they were the main threat with Groudon. Then obviously the Giratina Call, and they were the main threat with Nyx and Giratina. And then, but the Darkrai Call is never the main threat because Percival is never a main threat because that's just kind of the point of her character. But again, that's something to where it's like, in terms of that, right? Especially after everything's gone down and she's still after Darkrai, and she actually comes so close to attaining her goal, right? Getting one legendary as opposed to the rest of the cults, which have gotten multiple by this point, and that ends up falling through. And then the whole Dream World sequence, which was, again, amazing, right? Very glad they added that, or that was the thing. And then again, eventually with the whole, oh my god, and then the champion battle, and then, the whole post game, right? Like, again, I shouldn't have spent so much time talking about this. It might as well have been a retelling of Insurgents. And that was just for the fucking characters, right? But I've covered basically the story plot and then the overall game as well, right? But the point being, since the very start, you were kind of invested in Insurgents, right? And there are other little things that go on with that. Like, for example, Insurgents uses the Gen 4. Granted, neither of them are actually ROM hacks. Both of them use RPG Maker. But Zeta Omicron uses the Gen 3 models, whereas Insurgents uses the Gen 4. And I don't want to pick favorites, but this may be my bias, but my very first game was Heart Gold, so those Gen 4 models are special to me. So again, something to where I think that's more intriguing, or it's more enticing. And then also there's more custom, like, let's say, music. So there's that. Basically, it's almost all custom music, right? Versus Omicron, Zeta and Omicron, which is almost none of it is. It's very few parts of it are custom music. And then there's a lot of it as well in Insurgents versus Zeta and Omicron, where it reuses a lot. And then along with that, again, I guess, it's also like pull up the regional maps, right? Zeta and Omicron really just looks like a ripoff of Ruby and Sapphire, right? Like, I don't know. Like, you can pull up the website, Zeta and Omicron, go to Routes and Towns. It basically looks like a ripoff of Gen 3. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's literally what it looks like. It looks, again, right? Versus, like, go to Pokemon Insurgents, right? Go to Pokemon Insurgents. Shoot, I'm not actually sure you can access it features. New region and story, yeah. Let's go new region and story. Shoot, yeah, I don't think you can access it, so... Anyway, but, like, look at the region, right? Like, I guess, look up Pokemon, or look at Torn region. So, shoot, I don't even know what region we're fucking in for Zeta and Omicron. I literally don't know what region we're in. Like, I literally don't, does it say region? 2 full regions, wait, what the fuck? Oh yeah, the Vestron region, because that's mentioned. Literally, look at Pokemon Insurgents region map. Okay, it's not in fucking Google Images, so that's not helpful. But Pokemon locations, okay, that's also not helpful. But the point being, right? Go to locations. Routes. Go to routes. Okay, that's not helpful. But again, right? Like, the region itself is so much more interesting, right? The region itself is so much more interesting. Like, look at the region map of Pokemon Insurgents versus Pokemon Zeta and Omicron, right? Again, Zeta and Omicron, it looks like, again, just a ripoff of Gen 3. I don't know how else to put it. But the Torn region, like, look at it. It's so much more interesting, right? Again, I think they did a really good job designing the region for Torn, right? Again, it's fairly linear, I'd say. Not fairly, in fact. I'd say it's pretty linear. But it's not linear like Black and White, where it feels linear. The region doesn't really feel linear. Like, it feels like there's more stuff you can do. Like, but again, right, the region, like, looking at, it's just, again, I hate to say it, but it's, like, pretty well designed. So, Again, I just think the design of the region is a lot better. What am I looking at here? Again, right? I think the region is, again, just pretty well designed, fairly well designed, right? So, again, right? Just looking at it, right? Okay, why is there a... There's a video called Pokemon ASMR, Welcome to the Torn Region. Okay, let's ignore that, right? The point being, again, and I'm probably going to end the video here again, it's just... Because at the end of the day, right, you know, I can nitpick stuff like the game being unbalanced, because that seems to be the big issue, at least in terms of gameplay-wise, that's just not balanced at all. Like, and I don't even really know where to start, I guess, other than using the examples. You know, you need to fight 2 full routes of Pokemon trainers, right, after the second gym. But I beat the second gym in 3 moves. Literally 3 moves, right? So there's just zero balancing at all. And then, but worst of all, you're just non-vested in, say, Omicron, right? Again, you know, I'm going to beat the game, right? And I'll make a mid-game evaluation where I won't talk as much about Insurgents. But again, the point being, because again, like I say all these things, but if this game was like sort of a prelude or like a warm-up to Insurgents itself, then that's fine, right? I mean, work out the kinks in this game and then release Insurgents, which again, I think is a great game. You know, I enjoyed every hour of the 150 hours I put into it. It's something to where it's like, yeah, I don't regret it at all. They're literally the only critique I have of the game is certain characters weren't utilized to the full extent. That's the only critique I have. And it's literally only 3 characters, Nora, Audrey, and Yern. Like, literally just those 3. But, again, it's something to where it's like, with that game you're invested in, right? And I think it's clear with how I talk about it. But with this game, you're not really. I mean, I'm just not. Like, I'm going to trudge through this game and then beat it. But it's going to be something to where, like, I don't even, like, I don't know the goals of the main villain team. Like, it's not clear versus the goals of the cults being pretty clear. Pretty clear from the start, right? Even if, you know, because obviously, you know, they have, funny enough, most of the cults use their legendaries as a means for something, right? You know, Sky Cult use their legendaries as a means to kind of unify the region and then ultimately the world. Abyssal Cult use their legendaries as a means to basically bring out, you know, deep sea Pokemon to utilize for humanity's benefit. Infernal Cult, you know, use their legendaries as a means like basically control the hearts and minds of the population, literally. Guarantee Cult use Guarantee as a means to literally just change the composition of the universe, right? And then the only one where that's not really the case, and then, well, the only one that's not really the case, the Darkrai Cult, which literally just catch Darkrai, which they don't even succeed. And then again, the Perfection Cult's kind of like the oddball outlier, where they don't really have a specific legendary, but they just, again, it's right, kind of in pursuit of perfection, it's in pursuit of power, right? But again, the point being that, like, again, I don't know what the fucking Team Odysseus or Team fucking Odyssey, what is it? Team fucking, I don't even know what team I'm fighting. Team Olympus. I don't really care. Like, again, it's like Team Olympus, I don't know what they fucking want. I don't care, right? I'm not invested, right? I don't care about my rival. I'm not invested in the story, right? It's like, I just don't know how else to put it. Like, that's kind of the overall issue with the game and why, like, kind of overall it sucks. But at the end of the day, right, if it's just a prelude or a build-up, warm-up to Insurgents, then that's understandable. I mean, that's kind of why I went back and played this game, because that's what I heard. Well, A, it was mentioned. B, that's kind of what I heard it was. So, you know, I guess glad I played it in terms of that, right? Glad I didn't record it, though. If I do end up recording a game, it'd probably be Uranium. But who knows, right? Now I need to focus on beating this game because I started it. And, again, right, that's something to where it's like, at least in terms of that, right, you know, yeah, I just need to beat the game, and then after that, you know, I don't need to worry about it. I'll only be playing the good fan games from here on out. But, again, I guess, yeah, I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much all I have for this one. And I was motivated to make this even though it's 12:14 a.m. because of fucking needing to fight through 2 full routes full of trainers. That's literally so stupid. But again, that's all I've got for this one. I'll do a mid-game and then end game or late game, and then possibly an end game after that, post game evaluation. But and all those parts, they're not going to talk about Insurgents as much. They're just going to talk about Zeta and Omicron. So, again, not recording any of it, just giving my thoughts and opinions. So, yeah, I'm going to end it here. So, I don't have anything else to say. So, yep, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.